welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in today's video I will be talking about my fantasy romance TBR for 2022. So I'm sure a lot of you guys may know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I am a huge fantasy romance fan. I adore a fantasy romance. Anything that merges fantasy and romance together is like a winner in my book. They're my two favourite genres, and fantasy romance as its own genre is really becoming so popular, and it's really lovely to see so many exciting new releases coming out in the fantasy romance genre that I just really want to read. So before we do get cracking on with this video, please do make sure you're following me on Instagram and Twitter, because I post most of my bookish updates on there. You'll always catch me on Instagram just like telling you guys what I'm reading. So if you want to know what I'm reading as I'm reading it, then do follow me on Instagram over at @bookbellreads. I would love to see you over there. Now let's get cracking with the TBR, because I feel like I have some good ones and I'm really excited to read these books. So the first book is A Dance with the Fae Prince, and this is by Elise Cover. So this is actually the second book in the Married to Magic series, I think it's called. The first book in the series was called A Deal with the Elf King, and I really enjoyed that book. I think I talked about it in a reading vlog, so I'll try and find that and link that down below. But actually I really enjoyed that book. I think I gave it like 4 stars or something. I was really impressed. This was my first book from Elise Cover, so I knew that I had to read the second book in the series, because the main theme of this fantasy romance series is of course getting married to a magical being. So in the first book's case it is an elf, like an elf king, a dark elf, and in the second book obviously it's a Fae Prince. So any book with Fae in the title, I'm like, hit me up, I'm on board. So A Dance with the Fae Prince is described as Cinderella meets The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I mean, that comparison in itself I am here for, but it's described as a standalone fantasy romance about a human girl and her marriage to the Prince of the Fae. So this is about a girl who knows that her hand in marriage is basically going to be sold, like she knows that she's going to be sold into marriage. She just doesn't expect to be sold into marriage to a Fae Prince. And basically as she is married to him, she uncovers this like mystery, I guess. There's like kind of mysterious screams going on, there's like murders, there's all sorts of goings on in this Fae land. Really interestingly, there is a comp here in the blurb that says inspired by the tales of Psyche and Eros. So that to me is like weaving in a bit of Greek mythology as well. Like, I am so on board for this, and I think just based on my experiences with A Deal with the Elf King, the names just confuse me, but based on my experience reading that one, I know that I enjoy Elise Cover's writing, so I'm really excited to read this book, and I think it's a new release, so I'll be reading this one very, very soon. The second book is The Inadequate Heir by Danielle L. Jensen. So Danielle L. Jensen is the author of the Bridge Kingdom series, which is The Bridge Kingdom and The Traitor Queen. Now, where to even start with this like fantasy romance series? I am obsessed with this series. The Bridge Kingdom is basically about 2 warring kingdoms where there is a princess, and she has been brought up her whole life to kill the kind of prince or the king of the rival kingdom. So when they are married under the guise of like a treaty to like unite the 2 nations, her job is basically to infiltrate the kingdom and kill him and learn the secrets about the kingdom. And this enemy kingdom, the kind of rival kingdom, they have in their possession this bridge, which is like the root of all the trade for this kind of like nation, continent. And basically the bridge is like an amazing kind of power to have. The original kingdom where the princess is from, she, you know, her father really wants the secrets of this bridge and to own this bridge. So it's very political, the series. And The Traitor Queen, the sequel, was amazing, very, very dark, quite gritty fantasy. And The Inadequate Heir is in that same kind of universe. It's in that same world. So basically this one is about Zara, who is a soldier, and her mother has actually been killed by this warring kingdom, and so this hatred of this warring kingdom to Zara is like very intense, like she loathes them. And basically of course she ends up falling in love with the enemy prince, and this is just like perfect fantasy romance to me. Like, it's kind of a brink of war setting. It is a forbidden or kind of a romance that neither of them are on board with, because obviously they're at warring sides, and the fact that it's in the Bridge Kingdom world it just makes me super excited for this book. This has recently come out, so literally a week ago as I'm filming this, and I had this on pre-order, so I'm really looking forward to reading this book very soon. Also, as a pre-order incentive, Danielle L. Jensen gave anyone who pre-ordered this book access to a kind of little novella, I guess, like snippets of bonus chapters called Calm Before the Storm, which is actually a sequel to The Traitor Queen. So features Aaron and Lara, our characters from the Bridge Kingdom, and of course I knew that I needed to know how their story kind of ends up, so of course I pre-ordered The Inadequate Heir because I needed to know how Lara and Aaron's love story works out as well. So I love this universe, I love this world. Danielle L. Jensen is a really talented writer, and if you're looking for your next fantasy romance hit, this is definitely the one for you. So the next book I really want to read, and on my fantasy romance TBR, is A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft. So this is a book all about a kind of quest, I guess. It follows a woman called Margaret who knows that she basically wants to find out what's happened to her mother. Like, I think her mother's gone missing or has been killed or something like that, and she spots this mythical creature called a Halla, and she knows that when she spotted this mythical creature there is this hunt that will follow. So whoever kind of hunts down this mythical creature gets, you know, gets what they want, gets their reward essentially. So she has to team up with an alchemist, and this alchemist called Wes is kind of like a bit of a failed alchemist. Like, he has been kind of fired from every apprenticeship he started at, and these two form an unlikely bond and go on this quest together to track down this mythical creature so that Margaret can find out what happened to her mother. So I've been seeing amazing reviews for this book. Lots of people seem to love this, lots of 4- and 5-star reviews on Goodreads. So I just knew this sounded really up my street. Like, I love a kind of journey, a quest, a hunt situation, and I feel like that is just the right environment for two people to fall in love with each other. So I am on board for this book so much. So the next book is Lord of the Fading Lands by C.L. Wilson. Now, C.L. Wilson is actually on the first fantasy romance TBR I filmed for this channel. I will link that down below because I've still not read that book that I put on that TBR by C.L. Wilson. I think that was called The Winter King, and C.L. Wilson is a very popular fantasy romance author, and I know The Winter King, I think that's what it's called, it is one of the most popular books that she's written. This is another series from her, and it is about Fae, so of course I'm on board. So I've seen this being described as like really swoon-worthy and for fans of Sarah J Maas, so of course I am on board. But basically it is about a Fae king, a very high-profile Fae male called Rain, who has had his heart broken. He basically lost the love of his life a long time ago, and his lands are on the brink of destruction again. And now, 1,000 years later, a new threat threatens his land, and a new woman catches his eye. And basically they fall in love and have an amazing love story. And it sounds very kind of dark and intense, which I'm quite excited for. So this is another one where there seems to be like a brink of war setting, or kind of a darkness that they need to fight whilst also setting the scenes for love. So I'm very on board with that. And it looks like this is a 5-book series, and this book series is actually quite old. So it said the last book in the series was published in 2010. So actually this is not new at all. If anything, it's quite an older series, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. I just need to read something by C.L. Wilson because I know they've come highly recommended, so I will let you guys know my thoughts. The next fantasy romance book I really want to read is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane. So this book sounds amazing. It's kind of like barbarian-esque, and it's about this kind of fantasy land where there is this prince and his parents have been murdered by kind of a like warrior tribe, and basically it turns out that the princess, or kind of a woman from this tribe, even though she is responsible for his parents' murder, she proposes marriage to this prince in order for them both to claim their thrones. And he really wants to kind of stay clear of her. He really doesn't want to like her, but then this kind of desire brews, of course, and they end up falling for each other. This sounds super interesting. Again, it's got really good reviews on Goodreads. The cover leaves a bit to be desired, you know, but I'm willing to see past the cover and see if this book is the one for me, because it sounds awesome. I love the kind of like barbarian-esque like feel to it almost. So I'm really intrigued by this kind of forbidden romance, like enemies to lovers type of romance. So I'll let you guys know my thoughts about this one, but I'm super excited. So the next book I really want to read, and the final one on my fantasy romance TBR, is Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. So I have read Straight Until Morning by KJ Sutton, which is a fantasy romance Peter Pan retelling. I did not love that book at all. I talked about it quite a lot on this channel that I just didn't get on with it, but I am willing to give this author another chance because I have heard a lot of amazing things about this book. Now, Fortuna Sworn is about a girl called Fortuna who basically is the last of her line, and I think like she's something where she can seduce men and she has this kind of like powers, but basically her brother, like the only last remaining family member she has either been captured or goes missing or dies or something like that. Basically she needs to find him, she needs to kind of get him back, and then a Fae male basically lures her in and offers to help her out with this, and I feel like that's where the romance brews there. So it's really interesting, this kind of concept actually, and I saw in the blurb that there are quite a few trigger warnings for, you know, kind of sexual assault and slavery, and that seems quite intense. So I'm kind of like, maybe this is a little bit more adult than I felt Straight Until Morning was. I'm just going to keep my mind open to this book and not let my previous experiences with this author kind of make me biased against it, because it does sound like a really interesting concept. Again, we have like a Fae Prince type vibe, which I'm always here for, you know me. So I am really looking forward to this one, and fingers crossed I have a better experience with Fortuna Sworn, but I have heard a lot of amazing things. I know Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction loves this book and is always recommending it, so it comes with some high praise. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if this book lives up to the hype and if I'll enjoy it, but I will let you guys know my thoughts. So that's it for today's video, guys. Do let me know what books are on your fantasy romance TBR, and if there's any in this video that maybe I've missed, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, why not hit that subscribe button? I would love for you to join this lovely bookish community, and I can't wait to see you in another video very, very soon. Thanks again for watching. Bye.